guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. I figured it was time for an updated payday routine. I filmed this intro about 8 times now because my dogs are on X Games psycho mode this morning. I swear, they're so calm when I'm vlogging, which is why I don't film a lot of sit down videos, because the second I sit down in a chair to film, they're like, let's just bother the shit out of mom. So anyways, 9th time is a charm, hopefully. But I've been filming a lot of like payday routines, budget my paycheck breakdowns over on like short form just to like kind of switch it up. And then I realized I haven't filmed an updated payday routine since we moved into this home. And while our bills haven't really changed, I figured it was about time to give you guys an updated payday routine. This is still my most viewed video on my channel, which is kind of crazy because I remember filming it like on a whim on payday morning, taking a break from work and just being like, I want to share my payday routine with you guys. And I still get comments on it every single day. And I feel like it just hit the algorithm again because I woke up to like 5 or 6 comments. And I was like, you know what? Let me sit down. It's Friday, it's payday. It's literally like 8:30 in the morning. Let me sit down and film an updated one for you guys. So I'm really, really excited. A little bit about me in case you're new here or stumbling across this video. Hi, my name's Carter. I'm 26. I talk all about getting through life in your 20s unfiltered. I work, this is like always the hardest part. I work a part-time / full-time corporate job. So I have very variable income. I'm an hourly employee like most people in the hospital are. And I work as a coordinator for one of the departments doing like HR, finance, and education. And because of that, being like an HR cycle for a smaller department in the hospital, we obviously have busy seasons and slow seasons. I also plan conferences. So that's why my hours are variable. I am like a contracted permanent part-time employee, but I can dictate my own hours. So like during busy season, I pretty much work full-time. I work 4 to 5 days a week. And then during slow season, I work my standard 3 days a week, which is like my minimum. So I can focus a bit more on YouTube. Hopefully that makes sense. I kind of view it as like I'm a freelancer. So I just work what I need to work throughout the week to get my hours in. And then I let staffing know at the end of the week. So my paychecks definitely vary a lot, but I have been with my current hospital for 6 years. So I feel like all I know really, well, I have had a few like full-time salary roles in the hospital, but I feel like I'm just kind of used to that variable income life. And I don't see a lot of people who budget off of that. I know it's very common in the healthcare system for like nurses, CNAs, all those type of roles too. If you're like part-time and not full, even if you're full-time, your pays definitely fluctuate with shift work. So I like sharing these videos for those people who work variable income or maybe like work a commission-based job. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. I also of course do YouTube and social media. I wouldn't say on the side. It is my baby and I work technically more hours doing YouTube than I do my corporate job with like all the editing and filming. But you guys won't see any business income in this video. I really try my best to keep my business income in the business. Payday breakdown is solely off of my corporate income. I try to live off of my corporate income as much as possible. I do pay myself a monthly dividend or distribution from my business that goes right into savings and investments. But for the most part, I try to live off of my corporate income as much as possible, just so I don't really give into that lifestyle creep. Wow, the sun is really in and out today. I'm so sorry, you guys. Yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I'm so excited to jump into it. I want to preface that the way that I budget and the way that I go about my payday routine is not going to work for everybody. This is just what works for me. What works for you might not work for me. What works for me might not work for you, vice versa. And it's a little bit more different than maybe someone who's just budgeting off of one income. So that's why I like to share it. It's just like a little bit different. It's what works for me. And I see this becoming more and more popular online as people are picking up like part-time jobs and side hustle jobs and all that. So I have worked multiple jobs. I've always had one primary source of income that I have more consistent, stable hours in, and I've always had like a part-time or casual job where I can pick up hours as needed. My method of budgeting, and this is just what's worked for me for like literally the last 10 years, is my most consistent form of income, which for me right now is my corporate job because I get paid, you know, every 2 weeks bi-weekly. YouTube is a bit more sporadic with like brand deals and stuff. My most stable paycheck covers my bills, my living expenses, my variable expenses, all that. So my mortgage, my groceries, my spending, my corporate income covers that. My part-time job, casual job, nowadays it's like my business, what I choose to pay myself from the business is my money that goes into savings and investments. So when I worked 2 jobs in 2 different hospitals during the pandemic, if you guys have been following me since then, I had my full-time job that I worked as a clerk. And that money went right into like my checkings account, paid my bills, all that kind of stuff. And then my casual job at another hospital where I worked in like staffing and recruitment, that, because the hours fluctuated, was my savings and investments money, and that's just what works for me. Obviously, if there comes a time where I choose to just have one consistent form of income, my payday routine and the way that I budget will of course change. But for the last 10 years, I've known having multiple jobs. I've just always been someone who's very like work driven, career driven, like money driven. This is just what's worked for me. And even if you don't have multiple jobs, like hopefully this video is still helpful in some sense, but I just want to preface that because this is why it's fun making long form videos. When you do it short form, you have, you know, like the 60 seconds, and there's a lot that you can't include in that. So people are constantly being like, well, why didn't you put any money into savings this paycheck? Why didn't you put any money into investments this paycheck? And that's because, of course, I have the 2 different jobs, and it's always been like that for me, and it's what's worked for me. And yeah, technically with that being said, I usually have 3 paychecks in a month. So I have my 2 corporate paychecks, which are bi-weekly, and then I pay myself from the business on the 22nd of every month because that's when I get paid my AdSense. And I can share with you guys what that looks like as well. Okay, the first 2 steps in my payday routine actually happen before payday because I feel like a very proactive person. And the first is reviewing my paycheck. So we get paid on Friday, today's Friday. We get our pay stubs kind of like sent out to us on the Wednesday. So on Wednesdays, it's just become like a habit now at this point. I will go in and kind of double check my hours that I've worked in my Google Calendar versus like what I'm being paid for. You know, emails get lost, things, you know, get forgotten to be done sometimes. Like that's just life, you know, things get missed. It's not the end of the world. But I always just like to make sure that my hours reflected on my pay stub are the same hours that I've worked, and vice versa. And even if you work like a very stable corporate job where your hours don't really fluctuate, I still recommend doing this. I think it's so important to be in tune with your pay stubs and your pension contributions and all that stuff. I know for us, the first 6 months of the year, I don't really actually understand why, but our paychecks are lower because we put more into like CPP and retirement and pension. So I always like to double check my pay stubs. It's also a great way too to check in with like your vacation balances and your sick time, with overtime in the hospital and healthcare, just making sure that the hours that you've worked have been reflected on your pay stub. And of course for me, I also get to just see how much I get paid because my pay fluctuates so much. So that's always step 1, and I do that on Wednesdays. Step 2 is to update my budget spreadsheet, and I do this on Thursdays. I feel like my payday routine starts Wednesday and then ends on payday, like a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday thing. But I really just like to update my budget spreadsheet in advance of getting paid. That way when I get paid, I have the plan for my money and I don't have to think twice about it. I find when I give myself that time to like think on like, what do I want to do with this money? I'm more likely to just kind of like spend it because I don't have a plan. So I always try and update my budget spreadsheet. This includes inputting my paycheck in the income category because like I said, my paychecks do fluctuate. I will also pull up my credit card and then make sure all my expenses have been inputted. And I like to pay off my credit card Thursday evenings. I don't really know why, but like I like it to be paid off like before payday, if that makes sense. Depends. Sometimes like today I literally forgot, so we're gonna have to pay that off this morning. But I also like to just, yeah, take the time to check in with my credit card. So it's just a good time for me to kind of check and see where I'm at for the month so far, how my spending has been, and do a little bit of reflection. Plug in my paycheck, check my credit card, put my expenses into my budget spreadsheet, do a quick little check-in, how I'm feeling about money. And then that way when payday comes, I kind of already have a plan. I've arrived at payday. This is kind of how I go about it. So my current balance before I got paid, so like what I was currently working with in my checkings account, you know, Thursday, 11:59 p.m. was $1,383.78. You could technically consider that like your rollover from last payday. And then my paycheck was $2,029.46, bringing my total number in my checkings account to work with to $3,413.24. Now, the first thing I always do is pay off my credit card. So I'm going to do that right now. Like I said, it was at $239.90. The thing I love about the Neo credit card is that it's like an instant payoff, which is great. In terms of my credit card, I put all of my variable spending on there just for points and whatnot. But when I got started on my personal finance journey, because I was paying off so much consumer debt and credit card debt, I was not doing that. I was just spending from my checkings account with my debit card. There is no right or wrong way to do it. Well, I guess there's a wrong way to do it if you treat your credit card like a debit card. I just want to say that if you're not at a point yet where you can put your variable spending on your credit card, that is completely okay. It has taken me years, a lot of therapy, because a lot of our money issues, whether we want to believe it or not, are rooted in trauma in our childhood. It has taken me years, and therapy and a lot of continuously working on myself and my money habits to be able to put all of my spending on my credit card and be able to comfortably pay it off on payday. So I don't want anyone to see this and be like, wow, that must be like so nice to be able to just pay off your credit card every payday. It has taken me years. I graduated college with $10,000 of credit card consumer debt just because I had no control over my spending on my credit card. I couldn't even afford to put gas in my car. So I just want to tell everyone that it doesn't have to take years, but it has taken me years to get to this point. And if you don't feel like you're at a point yet where you can spend on your credit card and trust yourself, that is completely okay. You can put the money into a separate spending account and spend from there, or spend from your debit card, your checkings account, whatever works for you. This is just what works for me in this current phase of life. So pay that off. And then from here, this is when a lot of my bills just come out automatically in my checkings account. So step 4 for me is to review my upcoming bills and expenses. There are multiple ways to do this. I am someone who likes to designate certain bills with certain paychecks. I have made it so that most of my bills, probably like 95% of them, come out either on payday or the day after. That way I don't have to worry about anything. I don't have to worry if I have enough money in my checkings account the week after or anything like that. I just have them come out on payday or as close to payday as possible, which once again just takes the work out of it. I tried to automate as many of my bills as possible. And I know for some people, they like to have like a separate bills account and they'll transfer kind of like half the money each paycheck to that bills account. I just have everything come out of my checkings account. It's kind of like my hub of money, if you will. And yeah, that's been like my biggest tip and thing that's worked for me, is to have as many of my bills come out on payday as possible so I don't have to think twice about it. And I have certain bills that come out on certain paydays. So like for example, my car insurance comes out on my second payday, and then on the first payday, all of our utilities come out. So it kind of all balances out. Our mortgage, my car payment is bi-weekly. And yeah, so I'll kind of see what bills are coming out this payday. I also probably should have prefaced this video by saying all of these numbers are in Canadian. There are a few bills that are in the business name. So for example, my phone bill and the internet are under my business name. My business pays for those. So those are not bills that we pay for personally. But anything to do with our home, whether it be mortgage, property taxes, when we lived in a condo fees, utilities, we always split those costs. And then things obviously like my car insurance, I pay for that. Matt pays for his own car insurance. So we recently increased our mortgage payments. In Canada, at least, you can only increase it, I want to say 20%. First bill is our mortgage. We pay our mortgage bi-weekly and we split it. So our mortgage is $1,900, around that, a month. We pay that bi-weekly, meaning that every 2 weeks, we pay $956 for our mortgage. We split that payment in half, meaning that my contribution to our mortgage bi-weekly is $478. Car payment, which that comes out bi-weekly on payday, that's $157. And then my car insurance is one of those bills that I associate with my second paycheck because it comes out towards the end of the month. And that is $230. I had to run and get our property tax bill because I totally forgot that property taxes come out this month too, and I wanted to make sure that I got the number right. My contribution to the property taxes are $353.74. Keep in mind, we live in a rural area. Our property taxes are significantly cheaper than they were in the city. We pay those in 2 installments, and then of course, Matt and I split those. So after all of those bills are paid, I'm left with $1,926.04. And this would be the point where if you don't put your spending on a credit card, where you would allocate your variable spending for the next 2 weeks, right? So previously, before I was paying for things with my credit card, I would say, okay, I need XYZ, I need groceries, I need gas, this is what's coming up in the next 2 weeks. I'm gonna allocate a certain amount of money for those expenses. But for me, because I put all my spending on a credit card, I like to have a bit more of a buffer in my checkings account. That way, I know that I can pay my credit card off before next payday. Next step is we're gonna do a little savings and investings check-in. This is where it varies for me because I have those multiple sources of income, and I always have my whole life. And so I've always had one job that kind of covers my savings and investings. But what I've noticed is if I have extra money from my corporate job, like for example, this was a bigger paycheck than usual, can put some extra money into savings and investings. So same thing goes for my savings and investings as it did for my bills. I try and automate it as much as possible. I would rather contribute my minimums every month, and then if I have additional money at the end of the month, then I can contribute that in a bigger lump sum. Something I'm working on this year, which if you've been following me, you would know, is saving less to save more. My biggest struggle has been that I would always oversave and not take into account any expenses that come up that month. And I'd always be pulling from my savings and investments. So for me, it makes more sense to save less, but I'm actually saving more because I am pulling from my savings and investments less. So every payday I have $200 come out of my checkings account. Once again, I'm automating as much as possible. It makes it so easy. At a minimum, I invest $400 a month, and it definitely depends where you are in life, right? So we own our home. We just eloped, so we're not saving for a wedding or anything. And we've already had we just had it this week, our big home repair of the year. So until we establish what our next home repair is gonna be, we're not actively saving short-term for anything. And so right now, main goal is beefing up my emergency fund and then also investing. So at a minimum, I invest $400 a month, $200 into my RRSP and $200 into my TFSA. And then that way, at the end of the month, if I can't squeeze any more investments, totally fine. That's a number that is comfortable to me, that's not overshooting, and that I can very much still live and be able to pay for my expenses and pay for my variable spending. I feel like automating it has made it so much easier because I would see, you know, that number that's in my account, like, oh my gosh, I have $1,900 to play with. And I would, you know, like go buy something or go spend a bunch of money at like HomeSense. Where now it's like kind of part of a bill. I really view investing as a bill and an expense. So that comes out automatically on payday. I'll have that $100 into my RSP, $100 into my TFSA come out. I didn't think I was gonna be able to save much this month because we got eaves troughs. That was like our big expense. I got a bonus last month and all of it literally went to eaves troughs and our gutters. I'm pleasantly surprised that I have a little bit more to play with than I thought, but that's because I have worked full time for the last 2 weeks because I was in a course. This is the point where I'll kind of look at, okay, I have $1,700 in my checkings account. How much do I think I comfortably need to get by to next payday? And do I feel comfortable maybe investing a little bit more? I'll also take a look at my sinking funds and see if there's anything coming up that I should allocate some money for. And I'll just kind of do a little bit of a check-in there. I'm actually gonna add some money to my celebration sinking fund because we just went to a wedding, so I just depleted the money that was in there. I always add $50 a month into my pet sinking fund. Also my home sinking fund. Home sinking fund is for any home projects that we do, things that we buy. For example, we're getting a king bed, so I know that I'm gonna have to go get some sheets. And I like to just separate that from my everyday spending just because we obviously live in a 100-year-old fixer-upper home. We're kind of always spending on the house. I started painting my office. I ran out of paint. I'm gonna put some money aside for that. So I'm gonna put $100 into my celebration sinking fund, $250 into my home sinking fund, and $50 into my pet sinking fund. So that ends up leaving me with $1326.04, which is a pretty comfortable amount for next payday. That way, if any unexpected expenses come up that are on the smaller scale, I can pay for them. And once again, I just really like to have that buffer, but there's like a sweet spot for me. And this is like we discussed, right? I went into this payday with about $1383, and that seems to be a pretty comfortable number for me. That's kind of like my buffer. And I feel like my whole paycheck now has been allocated. When I do my saving and investing check-in is also when I'll update my numbers because I do track like what's going in and out of my sinking funds, what's going in and out in my investments. But that is my updated payday routine. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I think the key when it comes to any sort of money routine is to keep it simple and find what works for you. When I was first getting started on my personal finance journey on my channel, I was like weekly money routine, monthly money routine, daily money routine, and like realistically those things made me want to check in with my finances less. I find that bi-weekly is the perfect opportunity for me to check in with my finances on payday. And like I said, I don't think your payday routine has to exactly match what I'm doing. Maybe you found some tips and tricks in this video that are going to work for you that you can apply to your payday routine and what works for you. But I wanted to share this for anyone who maybe has like variable income or works multiple jobs like I do. I feel like I don't really see those payday routines online much. And I know it's like really common in the healthcare space. A lot of people work at, you know, multiple hospitals, multiple jobs. And yeah, but I hope you guys enjoyed and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.